The offer rejected. The message appeared on every screen across Earth simultaneously. Humanity had been sending signals into the void for centuries, but no one expected the response to arrive with such theatrical flair. No translation was needed. The message came in perfect English, Mandarin, Hindi, and 24 other major Earth languages. Greetings, people of Earth. The Galactic Concordat acknowledges your civilization's emergence. We will arrive in 7 planetary rotations to begin formal evaluation. For 7 days, Earth's government scrambled. Old rivalries were temporarily shelved as the United Earth Coalition formed in record time. Dr. Elena Rice, Earth's foremost xenolinguist, was appointed as humanity's chief diplomat, with General Marcus Chen as her security counterpart. They waited at the designated landing site in neutral Switzerland, surrounded by representatives from every nation. When the Concordat vessel descended through the clouds, its perfect spherical shape defied aerodynamic principles. It hovered silently before extending a seamless ramp. First contact was broadcast globally as 7 different alien species emerged. The delegation leader, who introduced himself as Arbiter Vox, resembled a tall, elegant insectoid with translucent wings that caught the sunlight in prismatic patterns. His compound eyes reflected the gathered humans as he spoke. Your species has demonstrated remarkable progress in a relatively short evolutionary timeframe. Vox stated, mandibles clicking between words. The Concordat has observed Earth for 3 of your centuries. We believe you are ready for preliminary assessment. The assessment lasted 6 months. Concordat representatives visited every continent, studied human history, analyzed technological development, and conducted countless interviews. At first, humanity welcomed them with open arms and boundless curiosity. But as weeks stretched into months, unease grew. They ask many questions but answer few, Dr. Rice noted during a private coalition meeting. They're particularly interested in our divergent technological paths. General Chen nodded. They seem disturbed by our quantum computing approaches. The arthropod one, Vox, actually recoiled when we demonstrated our neural interfaces. President Amara Shah, elected as the coalition's first leader, tapped her finger thoughtfully. They're judging us by standards we don't understand. The coalition soon discovered that the Concordat operated on rigid principles established millennia ago. Technological development followed prescribed paths, with innovations occurring in a specific sequence across all member species. Earth had apparently skipped several necessary stages, while simultaneously pursuing paths the Concordat had abandoned as dead ends. The evaluation concluded with a formal meeting aboard the Concordat vessel. President Shah, Dr. Rice, General Chen, and 4 other human representatives sat across from Arbiter Vox and his diverse alien colleagues. The Concordat has reached its assessment, Vox announced, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the anxious human faces. Your species shows promising attributes but concerning deviations. Your technological development has proceeded along unstable vectors. Your social structures retain vestiges of tribal conflicts. Your resource management protocols remain inefficient. The atmosphere grew tense as Vox continued. Therefore, we offer humanity protected species status. You will receive technological assistance to correct your developmental anomalies. Your expansion will be limited to your solar system until your civilization demonstrates greater conformity with Concordat standards. All further technological advancement will require Concordat approval. President Shah maintained her composure, though Dr. Rice noticed her knuckles whitening as she gripped her armrest. And if we decline this generous offer? Shah asked. The question created visible disturbance among the aliens. A gelatinous being near Vox rippled with what might have been surprise. No species declines protected status, Vox stated as if explaining a fundamental natural law. The benefits are considerable. You will eventually qualify for limited member status, which allows restricted interstellar travel under Concordat supervision. How long does advancement typically take? General Chen inquired. The average is approximately 700 of your years, replied a crystalline entity whose voice resonated like chimes. The shortest period was 312 years. Many require millennia. The human delegation requested 24 hours to consider the offer. Back on Earth, an emergency coalition session convened. They're offering us a cage with comfortable bedding, General Chen said bluntly. Dr. Reyes nodded. Their development paradigm appears fundamentally different from ours. They value stability and predictability over innovation and diversity. But can we afford to decline? Asked the European representative. What happens if we reject their protection? We asked. President Shah replied. They couldn't conceive of rejection. The question confused them. For 12 hours, humanity debated its first major interstellar decision. Scientists analyzed the limited technological information the Concordat had shared. Military strategists assessed potential threats. Economists projected centuries of development under Concordat restrictions. When the coalition reconvened, President Shah announced their decision. We vote to decline protected status. Humanity will determine its own course. The following day, the human delegation returned to the Concordat vessel. Vox and the other aliens waited with the patient certainty of beings who had heard this conversation hundreds of times before. The United Earth Coalition extends its gratitude for the Concordat's evaluation. President Shah began formally. After careful consideration, we respectfully decline your offer of protected species status. For a moment, the translation devices seemed to malfunction. The aliens remained motionless until Vox's wings fluttered rapidly, apparently a sign of agitation. You? Decline. Vox's translator rendered his clicking speech with an uncharacteristic stutter. This response is unprecedented. Perhaps there is a translation error. There is no error, Dr. Rice confirmed. Humanity chooses independence. Without Concordat protection, your development will be chaotic, inefficient, warned the crystalline being. You will face challenges beyond your comprehension. Those are challenges we accept, General Chen stated. This emotional response demonstrates precisely why guidance is necessary, Vox insisted. Your species requires structure. President Shah rose to her feet, her voice calm but resolute. The decision is made. We request that Concordat vessels respect Earth's territorial boundaries, which we define as extending 10 light-years from our sun. We wish you peaceful journey among the stars. As the human delegation departed, they could hear the aliens' translation devices struggling to keep pace with their rapid, agitated communications. The Concordat vessel remained in orbit for 3 more days before departing without further contact. 2 weeks later, observations confirmed that a smaller Concordat ship had taken position at the edge of the solar system, waiting for humanity to reconsider. Instead, humanity got to work. Within a year, the United Earth Coalition transformed into the Sol Alliance, a unified government focused on accelerated development. Resources previously directed toward conflict were channeled into research, exploration, and expansion within the solar system. Dr. Rice established the Divergent Technologies Initiative, specifically investigating the technological paths that had disturbed the Concordat representatives. Their reaction tells us where our advantages lie, she explained to the Alliance Council. They found our neural interface technology particularly concerning, which suggests it may be more advanced than their own. General Chen, now Admiral Chen, oversaw the creation of the Solar Defense Force. The Concordat may be patient, but they're not benevolent, he warned. They've built a galactic system that benefits themselves. We must be prepared to protect our independence. 5 years after the Concordat departed, humanity launched its first extrasolar colony ships to Proxima Centauri, using propulsion technology that the Concordat had deemed inefficient, but that human engineers had refined to unprecedented levels. 10 years after contact, the mysterious observer ship finally departed from the edge of the solar system. The Concordat, it seemed, had accepted humanity's decision, or at least decided to wait longer before trying again. But humanity wasn't waiting. As the observer departed, Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Alliance flagship Defiance, watching the final breakthrough test of Dr. Raya's research team. The experimental vessel Pathfinder disappeared in a flash of blue light, traveling a distance that should have taken years in mere seconds. "Send the message," Chen ordered with a satisfied smile. "Project Exodus begins now." The return of humanity. 30 years passed, a mere moment in galactic terms, but a generation for humanity. The Sol Alliance had expanded to 17 star systems, establishing colonies and outposts far beyond what the Concordat believed possible with primitive human technology. On New Terra, the third human colony world, Governor Eliana Reyes Chen addressed a gathering of settlement leaders. At 58, she carried herself with the same determination that had marked her mother's stance during first contact 3 decades earlier. "The observation satellite network is complete," she announced. "We now have monitoring capabilities extending 15 light-years beyond our territorial border." "Any sign of Concordat activity?" asked Director Jonas Maki, head of the colony's research division. "Nothing direct," Eliana replied. "But we've detected unusual communications patterns at the edges of our sensor range. Something has the Concordat agitated." Far from human space, on the Concordat administrative world of Harmonium, Arbiter Vox faced a crisis unprecedented in his 2-century career. The once elegant chamber where the Concordat's ruling council gathered now operated on emergency power, holographic interfaces flickering unstably. 16 core systems have experienced catastrophic network failures, reported Sub-Arbiter Lix, Vox's protege. "The quantum cascade is spreading faster than our isolation protocols." Vox's compound eyes reflected the emergency displays. "The pattern defies analysis. Our best systems architects cannot isolate the corruption source." "What of the outlying systems?" asked Counselor Nexus, a crystalline being who had been present during humanity's evaluation 30 years prior. "The failure is affecting only networks using the standard architecture," Lix explained. "Non-conforming systems remain unaffected." The implication hung heavily in the chamber. Only Concordat member worlds used the standard architecture, a technological framework established millennia ago and updated through carefully controlled iterations. Protected species use simplified derivatives. Independent worlds used whatever hodgepodge systems they developed. "How extensive is the damage?" Vox inquired. Lix's wings fluttered anxiously. "Critical infrastructure on 23 worlds has failed. Atmospheric regulation systems on Ventus IV collapsed yesterday. Environmental support on habitation rings in the Proxima system is operating at minimal capacity. Food production facilities in 6 systems are offline." "What of military readiness?" asked the defense minister. 70% of the Concordat fleet is experiencing navigation system failures, Lix reported. "The remaining vessels have been isolated from the network, but their capabilities are severely limited." Counselor Nexus's crystalline form vibrated with concern. "We must consider all possibilities. Could this be a deliberate attack?" The chamber fell silent. The Concordat had maintained peace for so long that the concept of warfare seemed archaic. "If it is an attack," Vox finally responded, "it targets our foundational technology with precision that suggests intimate knowledge of our systems." "The humans," whispered an elderly counselor. Vox's mandibles clicked rapidly. "We have maintained minimal observation of human territory. Our last intelligence suggests they expanded to perhaps 3 systems close to their homeworld. Their technology remains rudimentary by our standards. We haven't had direct contact in 3 decades, Lix pointed out, and our observation capabilities have been limited." "Limited?" Nexus demanded. "Our observer vessels consistently lost tracking capabilities when following human ships beyond certain distances," Lix admitted. "We assumed equipment malfunction or human detection countermeasures. Or they developed technology that our observers couldn't comprehend," suggested another counselor. As the debate continued, additional reports arrived documenting more systems failures across Concordat space. Food riots had broken out on 3 worlds. 2 minor species had already petitioned to withdraw from protected status, claiming the Concordat could no longer provide promised safeguards. 3 days later, a desperate decision was reached. The Concordat would send an envoy to human space. Admiral Maya Chen, granddaughter of the legendary Marcus Chen, stood on the bridge of the Alliance flagship Indomitable, studying sensor readings with narrowed eyes. Concordat vessel approaching territorial boundary. Admiral, reported her tactical officer. Configuration matches their diplomatic class. Interesting timing, Chen murmured. Status of GhostNet. The network detected the vessel 3 days ago, Admiral. We've been tracking their approach vector. They appear to be experiencing intermittent system failures. Chen smiled slightly. Broadcast standard greeting protocols once they cross the boundary. Let's see what brings the Concordat knocking after 30 years of silence. The Concordat vessel Harmonious Discourse entered human space with visible caution. Its once gleaming hull showed signs of hasty repairs, and its approach trajectory suggested navigational difficulties. They're responding to our greeting, Admiral, the communications officer announced, requesting direct communication with human leadership. Put them through, Chen ordered, straightening her uniform. The view screen activated to show Arbiter Lix, whose insectoid features resembled the Arbiter Vox from humanity's historical records, though his carapace displayed different markings. Greetings, representatives of humanity. Lix began formally. The Galactic Concordat requests audience regarding matters of mutual concern. This is Admiral Maya Chen of the Sol Alliance. State your purpose, Arbiter. If the insectoid was surprised by Chen's recognition of his title, he didn't show it. The Concordat faces a technological crisis that threatens billions of lives across thousands of worlds. We seek assistance. For a moment, Chen remained silent, considering the historical weight of this moment. Your request will be forwarded to Alliance leadership, she finally replied. You may proceed to Waypoint Station at these coordinates, but diplomatic team will meet you there. 3 days later, Arbiter Lix found himself aboard a human space station, unlike anything in Concordat records. Where Concordat architecture favored symmetry and standardization, this station featured organic curves, irregular layouts, and technologies that defied his understanding. The human delegation entered the conference room, led by a woman whose bearing commanded immediate respect. President Diana Washington, Sol Alliance. She introduced herself. With me are Dr. K. Mbeki, Director of Technology, and Admiral Maya Chen, whom you've met. Lix performed the Concordat greeting gesture. I am Arbiter Lix, representing the Concordat Council. With me are Technical Overseer Zenith and Cultural Specialist Taurus. 30 years is a long time between conversations, President Washington noted. What brings the Concordat to our door now? Lix's mandibles clicked in what humans had learned was a sign of discomfort. The Concordat faces an unprecedented crisis. Our core technological infrastructure is experiencing cascading failures across multiple systems. Billions of lives are at risk. Dr. Mbeki leaned forward. What kind of failures? Our quantum network, the standardized system architecture implemented across all Concordat worlds, is experiencing corruption at its foundational levels. The failure propagates faster than our countermeasures. And you believe we can help? Washington asked, her expression neutral. Our records indicate human technological development followed unconventional paths. Lix replied carefully. Your systems may be immune to whatever affects ours. Admiral Chen's eyes narrowed. 30 years ago, the Concordat deemed our technological approaches primitive and dangerous. Now you seek our assistance. Circumstances have changed, Lix stated simply. Washington studied the alien delegates for a long moment. Before we consider your request, we need to understand exactly what's happening and what you're asking of us. Over the next hours, the Concordat representatives explained their predicament. The technical details confirmed what Alliance intelligence had already detected. The standardized quantum architecture that underpinned Concordat civilization was collapsing from within, affecting everything from food production to life support systems. When they finished, Dr. Mbeki exchanged glances with Washington and Chen. "We'll need time to consult with our experts," Washington announced. "Please remain aboard the station. We'll reconvene in 12 hours. Once the aliens departed, Washington turned to her colleagues. "Assessment. Their entire civilization is built on technological standardization," Mbeki explained. "Every world, every species uses identical systems with minimal variation. It's efficient but creates a single point of failure." "Which has now failed," Chen added. "Can we help them?" Washington asked. Mbeki nodded slowly. "Yes, our distributed architecture approaches would be resistant to their cascade failures. But implementing such changes would fundamentally alter the Concordat's power structure, exactly as they feared 30 years ago," Chen noted with irony. When the delegations reconvened, President Washington addressed the Concordat representatives directly. "The Sol Alliance is prepared to offer assistance," she stated, "but not under the terms the Concordat might expect." Lix's compound eyes reflected the human delegates. "What terms do you propose?" "Equal partnership," Washington replied firmly. "Not protection, not membership under your hierarchy. The alliance will provide technological assistance to address your immediate crisis and help develop resilient systems for the future. In exchange, we require open technological exchange, recognition of human territorial sovereignty, and unrestricted trade access to Concordat markets." The Concordat representatives conferred briefly before Lix responded. "Your terms are unprecedented. The Concordat has existed for millennia based on established hierarchies and controlled technological dissemination. And now that system is failing," Admiral Chen pointed out. "Perhaps it's time for evolution." Lix's wings fluttered in what humans now recognized as agitation. "The Council will require time to consider such terms. Billions of lives hang in the balance." "Of course," Washington agreed. "But understand this. Humanity walked away 30 years ago because we refused to be limited by the Concordat's vision of what civilization should be. We've thrived in our independence. We will not surrender that now, even to save the Concordat." 3 days later, as food riots spread to additional Concordat worlds and more critical systems failed, the Council sent its response. They accepted humanity's terms. Within weeks, human technical teams deployed across Concordat space, implementing distributed system architectures resistant to the quantum cascade. Human ships, faster and more adaptable than their Concordat counterparts, delivered emergency supplies to affected worlds. 6 months after the crisis began, stability returned to Concordat space. But the galaxy had fundamentally changed. The ancient hierarchy that had governed interstellar relations for millennia had been irrevocably altered. On Harmonium, Arbiter Vox observed a human technical team implementing their final upgrades to the Council's communication systems. Their efficiency was undeniable, their innovation uncomfortable. They accomplished in months what would have taken us centuries of careful iteration, noted Counselor Nexus, approaching Vox's position. "Because they embraced change rather than fearing it," Vox replied. "When we evaluated them, we saw only the dangers of their approach, not the strengths." "Do you regret offering them protected status?" Vox's mandibles clicked softly. "I regret not recognizing what they truly were. Not a species needing protection, but one from whom we might have learned." As the human technicians finished their work, one approached the Concordat leaders. "Systems stable now," the young woman announced. "The distributed architecture should prevent any similar cascades in the future." "We are grateful," Nexus replied formally. The technician smiled. "Just doing what humans do best, finding new ways to solve old problems." As she departed, Vox turned to Nexus. "Perhaps that is what we lost when humanity walked away from our table 30 years ago. Not subjects to guide, but partners who saw the stars differently than we did." "And now?" Nexus asked. Vox gazed out at the galaxy where humanity's ships now moved freely among the stars. "Now we learn what it means to share the table as equals."